Okay, everybody, I think it is Wednesday time, so you know what that means. It is time for the creepiest of crawlers to be coming out of our CRT television set straight into your head loops. So whatever your head loops are, we're coming straight into it. So hopefully you guys can hear us. If that's the case, just give us a shout out. Usually, I think we've got this down now, hopefully, but you never can
Oh
tell.
yeah.
OBS might have changed something in the
Yeah.
last 30 seconds. So,
Yeah.
oh, all right. Well, who's the creepy? Obviously they can hear us. So if Joe's asking who's the creepiest,
Joan, you know it's me. Come on now.
he's not Uncle Creepy
So,
for no reason. That's it.
right?
So, oh, Mr. Brandon, how you doing, man? It's been a while since we've done this.
It is. It has been a while, and it's been too long. I've been doing great. How about yourself, man? How you doing?
I am well. I'm well. It is Wednesday night, so this is my last thing I have to do before I can put on my fuzzy slippers and have my cocoa and
Ah.
have gained all the experience points for defeated another Wednesday. So is all. So, yeah, no. Oh,
Outstanding.
but yeah, so we inadvertently had to take off a couple weeks. We originally planned to take 2 weeks off, but then there was a little thing that happened last week, and
Yeah.
nobody checked the big board in the producer headquarters and didn't see that there was
Yeah.
something else going on at 8 o'clock that kind of took precedence over us. So there we go. No, but we're back. However, we have returned, and we're as has become kind of been our want this season. We have a guest with us, but
Oh yeah.
before we get to that, Brendan, you get anything gaming done in the last 3 weeks?
Absolutely yes. I've actually been playing through the Tower of the Bitch and Chimera. I've been doing that. That's been fantastic. That's been a lot of fun. Have you seen that? It's the Tower of the Bitch and Chimera. I guess my understanding is that it was written by some of the folks who were from what's the name of that band? The Dead
Just
Milkmen.
think of the Dead Milkman. I don't believe the Dead Milkman necessarily wrote any of it.
Is that
I
what it is?
believe they gave it the two thumbs up.
Oh,
But that's my understanding. But my understanding may be wrong. However, so
gotcha. Well, my buddy Michael Shaley is running it. It's been a lot of fun. So I've been doing that once a week. We didn't. We had a couple of weeks off. Well, you know what we did. We didn't have enough people to do for last Sunday to do our normal Blades Against Bandwidth. So Judge Chase stepped up, and I got to be a player again, and we did the Madhouse Meet, which
ah,
was ooh boy, skin of our teeth, cousin. We barely made it out of there, man. So fun.
well, I can't. I don't know if that's working as intended or maybe slightly overworking as intended. I don't know. So well, good. I'm glad you guys are getting in.
How about you? Getting gaming in? How about
None,
you?
none, absolutely none whatsoever. I have no creative juices right now. I have just which I feel like I'm working 3 jobs at the moment, and I actually had to put because this is the last month of my grant project. I have to get that all done by the end of August, so that takes priority. So I actually had to tell my home group, it's basically like, we'll talk in September because I've got
Mm-hmm.
nothing. So yeah. And there was like schedule conflicts going on and everything. So I am totally in the passive sort in the passive sort of consuming entertainment like the majority of America is. I'm watching a lot of movies and letting other people entertain me while I have to use my big brain. So, well,
Cool, cool,
that's it.
man.
But speaking of big brains, reminds me of a cover of a certain adventure that I wrote, a little thing called "Imprisoned in the God Skull," who did the art. Actually, the whole adventure was based on the art written by somebody who's going to be joining us momentarily as soon as I let him back in. So
Hey, we bring him out. I can't
let's
wait.
bring in, let's bring in, ladies and gentlemen, joining us live, Mr. Erol Otus. As soon as we get everything working here, yeah, there we go. Hey, Errol, hopefully you
Hello.
can hear us. So,
I saw a very strange picture of you for a second there, Michael.
oh.
Was that expected? No.
I,
Oh, was it your that
You had like
picture of
a big hair.
oh,
uh,
It was only for a second, so it was almost subliminal.
it was
Maybe I didn't really see it.
that's my
oh, you saw it.
that's my still. It's my still from Theater of Blood, Mr. Vincent Price.
Yeah, maybe that was it.
Yeah, I hope so. So, So thank you very much for joining us, Errol. Thank you for actually being able to reschedule because originally we were going to have you on last week, but then I understand you were on Twitch anyway last week. So
Right, with Goodman, Dying Earth crew.
yeah, they had the countdown show, so that was did very very well, and so
Congratulations.
yeah, congratulations. It's true because I understand that you've kind of get roped into doing some extra stuff anyway on that. They did so well, so
Right, there was one more goal. What do they call it? Like
stretch goals.
stretch goal, yeah, and it farce made that, which was cool. And then I guess they even had to add several more after that. Pretty amazing.
Yeah.
It certainly took off like a rocket. So
Yeah, Dying Earth Fever. Well done.
Dying Earth Fever. Yeah. So I was led to believe, and I hope this is true, because otherwise we might not have a lot to talk about. but you have some affection for Jack Vance, correct? I mean, you're a fan of Mr. Vance, is that correct?
Yeah, I think he's my favorite fantasy and science fiction author.
Really?
Yeah.
Favorite? Okay.
So.
All right.
Yeah, I think the first book I read was The Dragon Masters, I think, as a youngster. And I just remember being fascinated by all the different dragons described therein. I was really into monsters and battle and science fiction, so that was a good fit. It's funny, but I remember also being really frustrated as a kid, really looking for exact descriptions of these creatures. There was names and there was some explanation of what they were, and I would flip back and forth trying to find, well, what exactly does it look like? What? But that is, now, of course, I really appreciate that about him, that he can make something unique and memorable, but yet you don't really know everything about it. And I keep thinking about it. I keep thinking about herbs and brews and diadans. I don't know exactly what they look like. There's mentions of features, but a lot of it is left for you, the reader to not necessarily fill in, but just keep thinking about.
Right.
I really like that.
Right. I mean, I've always said that when it comes to movies, the most actually any sort of literature, but the most powerful the most powerful special effects factory is the one that's inside your own head, because it can do things that Lucasfilm can't, and and it's much more effective because it's all very eternal. It's just drawing on your own fears, your own hopes, your own desires, your own imagination and such. So I think I don't know if that's actually, if we're kind of trending away from that or not, just because there's.
Well, I mean, it's much easier to do it in a book, right?
Oh, sure.
And then, I mean, you can cut away in a movie and not show something, but yeah, that's definitely fading away, right? Films, yeah. I mean,
I was thinking, aside from Vance, I think Paul Anderson's was it three lines, three shields? Well, no, what's the one?
Three Hearts for Three Lions?
Three Hearts, Three Lions. That's where he counters the troll toward the end of that. I recall that very much being the same thing. Is that you just kind of like get these intimations of like what exactly a troll is, and it's weird like how much those those little small details kind of gave us the D&D troll as like the the big long nosed rubbery thing where as opposed to like the Scandinavian troll was something like completely different, and so.
Yeah, that D&D troll just tripped me out when I saw it. It's just like that side view Sutherland did with its weird rib cage protruding, really evocative. So that came from Paul Anderson, you think?
Three Hearts and Three Lions.
So that troll kind of resembles some of the things he described. That's interesting.
Well, you see, it kind of like Vance is like and I know it's been a couple of years, but if I'm remembering correctly, like the protagonist encounters the troll in a cave, so it's kind of dark anyway. But the troll's description is very, very vague. maybe not quite as vague as like what Vance has done with like some of his creations, but
Mm-hmm.
still, again, there's just enough of it that it is kind of terrifying because not only can because the troll of that story also is the same thing. Fire is the only thing that will affect him. So
Mm. Oh, okay.
there's a big there's a big kind of going back and forth like how do we kill this thing? Um, so so yeah, but yeah, I mean I very much agree. Uh, so now I must admit that like my reading advance, most of the stuff that I've been experiencing has been the Dying Earth series. So a lot of his other stuff I'm not that well familiar with. Now, is his use of vocabulary the way that he does with the Dying Earth? Is that kind of his shtick for Dying Earth, or does that spill over into like some of his other fantasy and science fiction? Because you said you read him at a very young age, and
Yeah. Well, there was some science fiction ones. I'm not sure that it was quite as flowery, but still, it was pretty. Um, um, I don't know. Maybe not as heavy. It's hard for me to remember.
right.
Um, Maybe not in the Dragon Master stuff.
Okay.
But I do something that does pervade. I think all of his work is the main thing that I think about when I think about him and why I maybe the main reason that I like him so much is the combination of terrible mortal danger situations that's infused at the same time with humor.
Mm-hmm.
It's not making light of it. It's the bravado and bluster of some character in the face of something extremely serious, but then rather than a noble outcome, suddenly the character can turn to wheedling and mewling, to I don't know, just circumstances goes against him, and it makes me laugh out loud sometimes. Honestly, when I'm reading it, and it's a situation in which people are going to die, but it's still funny.
It's there is definitely a certain level like gallows humor to it. It's just, the old kind of the whistling past the graveyard. It's just and that's not easy to do. I mean, it takes some talent in order to pull on the heartstrings, and get yourself riled up, and then at the same time make you kind of laugh doing it. So,
It's tricky.
Brendan, you said is there a question for Errol?
Yeah, I got a cool question from the chat. Okay, so Tim L. White, he says, I'm running imprisoned in the God Skull tonight. What about the adventure inspired Errol's art for it? So this is really, I think this is one that goes like, it's more complicated than that. But so,
this is very much this is the actually the cover of which is the image which is behind Errol right now, which was a piece that I think Joe Goodman basically said because I came in late involved considering I wrote it. But did Joe commission you? He's like, I want you to do a piece of art for me, and we're going to do an adventure about it, or did he just?
Yeah, that was one of the truly greatest assignments that I can imagine. Is paint whatever you want. Yeah. And so and we will create from that. And,
I love that.
And that's what I did.
And I have to say, for since I was the one who ended up writing the adventure for that, it was challenging because I had to go through a bunch of different drafts in that because I was like, okay, this has to be weird enough to to do justice to Errol's artwork on this. So on
the one hand, yeah, I mean, I still was still do, but I was ooh, I hope they're okay because there's it's in some ways there's a lot of specific stuff going on here in this picture, but.
I think I managed to get it all in, and kind of put enough of thread of a plot that it made sense. So that's that's actually kind of interesting, and that was a very interesting challenge to do that because sometimes like having the limitations, when like creative, like to walls around the creative process, they can they can be strangely freeing. And other times they can be like, oh, why can't I really just do this or anything? So.
Oh God, yeah, that I would think that would be much harder. Good job. I think that's a much harder assignment for the writer than just to start from scratch. Although that's also.
When you get the opportunity, though, it's amazing. I've had one chance to see a piece of cover art before I wrote the text for it, for my Mutant Crawl Classics adventure, the Apocalypse art. And like I had started writing the adventure, and then I saw Stefan's cover for it. I was like, wait, where were you already? Page 1. And I totally redid the encounter to add that giant robot thing that's on the front there with the blaster arms. And, you know, it's a rare way to work that very rarely happens in the industry, but it's super cool when you get the opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it can be inspirational. Yeah.
There's been many times that I've changed a manuscript after seeing like the art for it and be like, wow, that's much better than what I had in mind. I think, and it's much easier. It's much easier for me to like delete a couple of words and rewrite some sentences than it was to. No, I think we got to change the entire picture here and everything. So like speaking of that, Erol, obviously you've done a lot of commissions for, so you know, people come and say, okay, I want you to do this. So you have, I guess you kind of have to deal with like, you know, baked in constraints a lot as an artist, correct? I mean, that's as we were talking before we went live. It's like my skill of artist is putting paint on stuff, not actually doing anything. So. Is that just something part and parcel with, you know, with the artistic process at this point for you?
I'm sorry. Could you repeat the question?
Well, I mean, as you know, I'm assuming you get a lot of art which is commissioned, you know, either for
yes.
You know, so
yes.
Obviously somebody is, you know, I mean, I have learned long ago if I'm giving an artist art to be kind of as vague as possible and not try to like, okay, well, I picture the piece looking like this and this, be like, okay, a bunch of people fighting like a monster, you know, and and then just let the artist run with it or anything. So
yeah, I find it the more I can come up with the concept, the more fulfilling it is, and a lot of times it comes out better too. Just I don't know why, but every now and then you do one, and it's very specific, like the Magic the Gathering card I did recently. Not surprising, you know, they're a big gun and they have very specific things they want, and that was a completely different challenge that turned out being pretty fun. But it was like, yeah, it's a gold dragon sitting on a horde, there's a wizard casting a shield, and we need to have this amount of treasure. And then like, wow, I haven't done something like this in a while, but this is a great opportunity too. So that worked out well in the end. But that, yeah, sometimes it's really specific.
Was a reminder why you haven't done that in a while. That was
well, I mean, that was a pretty cool experience. I don't think I would want to make that the majority of the way that I work, but every now and then it's kind of a neat. I mean, that's yeah. I mean, that's a discipline too. I think a lot of some other people are a lot better at that sort of thing than me, but it was fun to apply myself to that.
Mm-hmm. That's so cool. I've got questions are popping up in the chat room if y'all don't mind if I start bringing some of these in. Jess says, what are some of your favorite mediums to work in? For example, pen and ink, digital, paint, etc.
For black and whites, it is pen and ink and brushes too. And I use usually rapidographs. And so that's all Indian ink. This might be obvious, but something I learned a long time ago working at TSR is you need to let it dry overnight before you erase the underlying pencil, or it actually doesn't smudge, but you lose some of the darkness. Yeah, isn't that weird? So you let it dry overnight, and the Indian ink says, "Thank you, and I will not get lighter when you erase me." And that's on illustration board. Maybe it's different on other surfaces.
Did you become comfortable with like the mediums that you work in, and that, you know, that's pretty much what you've been working on for, you know, for most of your career, or, you know, do you still kind of experiment with new stuff as it comes along, or do you know what you can do with the tools that you have?
I pretty much stick to that for black and white, although sometimes I'll do more of a straight up line drawing and put the tones on and scan it in the computer and do grayscale tones, you know, in Photoshop as I do that. And sometimes I'll do the ink drawing and color it in the computer. The most recent thing like that was a t-shirt designed for the Games and Stuff store. It's a game store. I posted that on my Facebook. That one came out pretty good. But usually for color, it's acrylic paints, although sometimes watercolors. And that is also usually on illustration board.
Okay.
with the acrylics. Yeah. Although, yeah, sometimes I might do a thing or two in Photoshop after the fact, but mostly it's physical.
Fantastic. Cool. Very cool. Okay, so they keep coming. So Hector wants to. He's a Mr. Otus, very respectful. I said, what piece of art was the most memorable for you to create? Like, what was your most of the ones that you've done? What's the one that you really most memorable that you've done for yourself?
That's really a tough one. I think a lot about for black and whites the Shub Niggurath from Deities and Demigods.
Yeah.
It's really elaborate. There's a lot of things going on, a lot of creatures.
Yeah.
That's something that I think about when people ask me that question. But then I also think about a lot of the ones. I like the three wizards dividing treasure. I think that was on the module in the basic set.
Right. And that was I know Joe was talking about though, but that seems to be you were very much channeling Vance in that. That's very much
yeah, absolutely. I mean his whole we're noble until we're not anymore. And everyone's really I mentioned this just last week, but I didn't realize it. And a lot of times when I draw people, somebody's got their mouth open, but not in that illustration. Each wizard is, doing their closed mouths, trying to be as nice as possible while absolutely being greedy. And let's see, for color, I like the cover of Dragon 55, where there's the little fellow being introduced by a strange little wizard guy to a huge tentacled creature.
Okay.
But there's a lot of
right
yeah,
now,
like they're on the stairs.
Like Dr. Seuss stairs, and so that's a color one I think about a lot when people say what's your favorite, but there's a lot of other ones.
Now we had talked about commissions and such, and obviously you make your living doing art and everything. Do you find that you have any time to like do art for yourself anymore? I mean, do you, or is it because Brendan and I we always talk about like being writers is like most of the stuff that we're writing nowadays is something that is is a commission or for something for Goodman or something else. Very little time to actually do anything like I feel like writing this just for an audience of me. Do you run into the same situation as an artist?
Well, that's an interesting question because when I'm doing these fantasy illustrations, these science fiction illustrations, that is for me.
Okay.
So I don't feel, and it's fulfilling, and I get to communicate with people through that artwork. That does it for me. That's like fulfilling. Yeah.
that's probably why you've remained sane in this business for so long.
Well, as sane as I've ever been. Yeah.
Sane for the industry. I mean, it's a floating scale. Oh no. That's I mean I can see that, and that's really a great mental place to be. Just what the old saying is like find the job you love, never work a day in your life. That kind of thing.
Right. That's right. Yeah, and especially when there's something like this where I get to make it up completely, and add in some, there's some abstract elements here. It's rock or is it masonry, but it's an opportunity to make interesting patterns and shapes. It's for me on a couple different levels.
That feeds into something. Brendan came across this quote from you in an interview you gave for some other situation. Obviously not as good as that, but no. You were quoted saying, "I think my unconscious is largely responsible for how things turn out." And I think that resonated both with Brendan and I, because I've always said is that I know I've had a good writing day if like when I'm done I look back at it and I'll see something I like and I'm like I have no idea where that came from. Like, that just, it's very Jungian to the sense. It's like you almost have tapped into like the universal subconscious and dredged something out of it and just kind of like put it out there, like an archaeological, excavation of it. Is that very much the same thing what you were talking about when you're saying, you're kind of this just something will just, come and you have no idea like where its origin is or anything?
Yeah, I mean that's a great subject. I hate it. I didn't mean to say that. You know how like in interviews these days everyone's saying that's a great question. It's like they've been coached. It's just like, so forget that I just said that. But I can say that. No spoiler. These fine gentlemen previewed some of these questions to me before this show. So I was thinking about some of them, and that one in particular, I started thinking about because I'm working on the stretch goal of creating an adventure for the Dying Earth DCC thing, and the unconscious and the conscious really comes to the fore there. I mean, you sit down with a conscious mind and you say, okay, now I'm gonna create an adventure for the DCC Dying Earth. Consciously, that's what you're doing, and you sit down, and then ideas come up. Mm-hmm. Where did they come from? And some of them are really good, some of them are bad, and at this point you're conscious, not necessarily bad, but have no relevance at the moment, and then your conscious mind jumps back in and curates it a little bit, and then you go, okay, so what could work with this? And I'm not thinking about anything particular, and other things come up, and it's like, it's amazing. And then at some point, there's enough ideas that came from somewhere at the unconscious that your conscious mind can take over again and knit them together, and you've got something. And that whole process is wild. I mean, you're mostly your unconscious, right? I mean, it's just this little, he thinks he's in charge. No, not at all, not hardly. But yeah, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, so just recently I managed to come up with enough ideas for that it gave enough form for the conscious mind to take over and start drawing a map. And then that drives things in a whole nother direction, right? You start to think about the flow of the adventure and it kind of switches. The unconscious is not as important, but it still pops up every now and then as you're looking at the shapes or whatever the paths that could happen. Mm-hmm. That's a big subject.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always like, I don't always keep a dream journal, but I have on and off for my entire life, and I've always kind of. It's almost like it is almost like an archaeological expedition, and like sometimes you wake up and you have like this relic that you have this memory or this concept or this just like a an image or something that you have kind of pulled out of the dreamlands or something, and now you're the the conduit to bring mm-hmm. that and make it something into the waking world. And and when that can happen, it's like, wow, it's not something you can really plan. It's just something that you can kind of take advantage of, when it does happen. So
yeah. I used to have. It hasn't happened in a while. Maybe it's because we're all slowly dying. But it used to be that just as I was about to fall asleep, sometimes I would have an idea just as I was about to fall asleep, and I would be able to get up and write it down. It's not waking up from a dream. It's like just having an idea as you're going from waking to sleeping. Mm-hmm. And I got to try and do that some more, but there's no way to try and do that. So
it can only happen to you.
Yeah,
that's wild.
I've always said that the company that ever managed to make a way that you can record your dreams and go back and watch them later is like, that's they'll make more money than Amazon and like Microsoft put together. I don't think they're I mean there's what is it? Was that Brainwave? I'm thinking of with Christopher Walken and yeah.
That was good.
Yeah, like if somebody could actually do that in real life, you could record your dreams and pop.
Oh no, wait, what? Oh wait, now I'm thinking of something else. Maybe I'm thinking of Brainstorm. What's the one where they recorded things on tape?
Yeah.
There was Strange Days, where they were recording actual experiences, and they would you could put it on and be someone jogging down the beach or whatever, and they were using it for all kinds of nefarious things. But then there was Dreamscape, where the guy can go into your dreams, and maybe it's a Quaid. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Brainstorm. That had walking in it too. That's why I got dripped up their Brainstorm and Natalie Wood, and they make they can actually they some people use it for ill.
Right, they were trying to assassinate the president in his dreams, if I remember. That was like the plot.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think that's what the plot of it was. Maybe I'm confused. Maybe I'm just making up this movie because I want this thing to exist. I want this technology to exist so much. But all right.
Yeah.
Well, Brainstorm. It was a good film anyway.
Yeah. So, I think I'll have to find. We'll put it in the show notes. Spoiler: we have no show notes.
So you said you've had ideas for the your Dying Earth adventure. Is there anything that you can tease about it at this point, or is it too early?
No, I think that was the tease.
Fair enough.
Just that progress is being made recently. Yeah, I wouldn't call it a breakthrough, but it's just that point where you have enough ideas and you're like, oh, and then you know what the adventure is going to be. And you know it's got some promise.
At least you think you know what the adventure is going to be at this point.
That's where I think I know.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna put you to the coals because coming from a writing background, we know how much can change from the start of the project, and by the time the project's over, it's like maybe 10% of that survived the process, and like everything else was something that accumulated along the way.
Oh wow.
Oh, so I have to give props to my compadre here, Brendan. Brendan did the research. A lot of the research would kind of coming up some questions here and everything, and he found something which I did not know about. There was something about you've done voice work on at least one project. Is that?
Oh yeah. I did voice work. I think the first one was for Star Control 2. One of the greatest computer games of all time. Seriously. But then I also did a lot for Skylanders when I was last at Activision Toys for Bob.
Okay.
What was that like?
It's pretty fun. The main thing I did for Skylanders was there was a character called the Announcer who primarily started off announcing. There was a little player versus player segment, but he ended up doing a lot more. But it was fun. It was actually, in a sense, a little bit, I don't know, fancy in the right word. Anyway, so it was a kid's game, so it was fairly lighthearted in many ways. It was very popular with parent gamers and their kids. But the Announcer was very serious, and there were power-ups, that he would pick up. And there would be food, things like Chinese food and stuff like that. And that's how he would sound. So he was just like a really serious sounding guy, patterned after the guy in the Announcer in Doom.
Okay.
Right. He used to say humiliation. So he would talk like that in this really light-hearted kids game, and it really worked as a funny thing.
Now, how did you get tapped to do the voice? Was it just so because I did voiceover work when I was working for a web design house, and it basically was just like, we need somebody to do voices for this. It's like like, Mike, you have a good voice. Come on, we're going in the city to do this. Is that kind of how you got brought into it?
Yeah, it was a little like that. I was a game designer there, and a lot of times we would stub in stuff, placeholder stuff, and I guess some of my placeholder stuff was good enough.
Okay.
So and you're right. Yeah, I can't remember exactly. We had we had different audio directors, and one of them was just like, yeah, you should do this, and so just started doing it. Yeah, and I had to join SAG-AFTRA, so you could actually use it in a computer game.
Cool.
All right. I just thought it was curious. I thought it was an interesting tidbit because I'm sure you get a lot of questions about the TSR days. And we're very forward looking, and we like talking about things that maybe not other people are talking about here.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Star Control one was cool because that was when just Paul Ritchie and Fred Ford were the developers. That was the main team. Where two people could make a video game incredible, but they did need a lot of assets, and so people they knew who were around them and local contributed artwork and music and voice and writing.
Okay. All right, Brendan, do we get everything from the chat?
I do. I've got a couple. So, let's see. So, someone's asking if you would ever consider creating an art book, like a retrospective for yourself. Have you ever thought about doing like a?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I want to do that. And hopefully at some point I will do that. Yeah, I need to work out. I think I got some promising information, although I can't remember exactly what it was, because I was kind of worried about the amount. There's some percentage of stuff, if it's TSR, then you have to pay WotC. I'm not exactly sure about this, but I need to work out some major rights and financial details before I do it. Also, I feel like I need to do a couple more really good paintings before I even earn the right to do a book. I don't know.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. You know, your body of work, Erol, could probably use a few more masterpieces. Erol, you did.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I get that though. It's, I love that you're still hungry. That's so cool.
Yeah, but yeah, thank you. I just don't. Yeah, just got not quite there yet.
Fair enough.
No. I was actually looking through some of the old Dungeon Crawl Classic stuff that Joe Goodman put out in the early days of DCC, and I saw that you did the cover of number 3 of all the third DCC venture, which was, I think, the Mysterious Tower. I think that's the name of the cover. So that was 2003. Was that kind of like did you know Joe? I mean, I know Joe got his start right around the 3.5 era. Do you recall if you ran into him at a convention, or if he just kind of contacted you out of the blue and said, I'm doing like retro stuff? Or...
I don't. I know I hung out with him at DunderCon, but I think that's after we already had done some work together. Boy, yep, there's the old brain problem.
Yeah, it's almost
20 years. I can't remember.
It's just interesting. That I mean, you and Joe have been having working
relationship. I wonder if there was another dude who contacted me and introduced us like a businessy guy, an early partner of
he might have had one. I don't know. That was you. Technically, you have worked for.
Maybe he wasn't a partner, but he was sort of an advisor. I can't remember his name. Shoot.
Well, however it came about, it allows you to do, dying Earth art, almost 2 decades later. So, that's
yeah.
those long-term plans that kind of worked out.
Yeah. It's a real pleasure.
I see a question comes up, which I have kind of a soft space in my heart here. A question about Expedition Barrier Peaks. Do you see that there, Mr. Brendan? Do you see?
Yep. Someone asks, what stories can you tell us about the Expedition of the Barrier Peaks, the work that you've done then?
Stories. Well, I remember thinking it was really cool that they were going to, have so much artwork in that book.
Yeah.
And they were going to have color plates inside. I thought that was really cool and deluxe. And then there was so much of it was science fiction. That was a really a nice change of pace from a lot of the stuff that we were doing. Let's see. I don't remember. I loved the way the Veggie Pygmies came out. They really had a personality, even though they were kind of weenie creatures. They were up for a fight, you could tell.
Oh yeah. Scrappy.
They're glad you had showed up,
Now, do you have like a equal love for both science fiction and fantasy? Or do you have a slight preference over one over the other? There's no wrong answer to this.
I think I prefer fantasy.
Okay.
But I also very much, it's like science fiction. So, but yeah, I think fantasy is a little more open.
I completely agree. Yeah, I mean, that's just by its inherent nature of it, especially after we get. I mean, when this, I mean, science fiction, of the Farnsworth, days of science fiction in the 40s. There was that period at the start of science fiction where it was very kind of loosey goosey, and then it got very much kind of like, it got into the hardcore, science realism, where it was
Right. Is it really real science fiction?
And then we don't really get out of that until like the 60s, where you start getting like more like New Worlds, and you start getting like the new wave of the science fiction at that point. A lot of that coming out of Britain and stuff, like Moorcock was doing all of his Eternal Champions, and there was a lot more of that kind of like more less hard science fiction and more social commentary, I guess, out of it. So, but yeah, I totally agree. Kind of like the same situation for me. Although it is nice to mix the peanut butter and the chocolate. Okay.
Oh yeah, I love science fiction. Absolutely.
I owe this one to Brendan. Is that you've done some album cover work, which I'm surprised is that actually you haven't. Have you done a lot? Because I didn't know that you even did one, but I would be like, if I had a band, I would ask Erol to do the cover.
Yeah, I did a couple for the Lord Weird's Slaufag. The head guy, Mike Scalzi, was a fan of D&D and my work, and he came. There's another guy who came with Mike Scalzi, who I actually can't remember, who was doing some kind of fanzine, and he was the one who actually wanted to interview me and stuff. And then Mike said, you want to do an album cover? And working with him was really cool. The first one was Twilight of the Idols, and it had. Well, I mean, he was pretty open. I said, so there'd be these idols sticking up, kind of in this something that might evoke a, ancient Stonehenge related sort of look. Mm-hmm. And then they went beneath the ground, and there was this proto female thing, and then the band members were represented as kind of floating, screaming, without hands and feet, weird creatures. And then he loved that, but he said, and then on the back, can you put this? Did he push me to do that? There was a warrior with a laser pistol that I feel like I added at his behest, but now I can't remember that. But yeah, that was pretty cool. That came out good. And then the other one was Down Among the Dead Men, and that one I just suggested that I do a figure that was made out of many limbs. And that one I really liked, but that one was really good. And several years after that, I swear, I was playing a massively multiplayer online game, and I think they paid me the greatest compliment, and there was a creature in there that looked just like it. This was years after. So I was like, wow, that's cool. But I never followed up to uncover the archaeology of all that. But and then I did a black and white album cover for a band called End of a Year, and that was an interesting one too.
Yeah.
But yeah, not that many.
Are they Lord Weird Slaufag? Are they a British outfit by any chance? Or are they from the UK? They're
No. He was at the time I did them. Like, he was local in San Francisco, although I don't think they, originated here, or I think he was from back east.
Because if I have my 2000 AD British comics, I think that was the bad guy from the Slain series. I think I'm probably mispronouncing it because it's the Celtic thing. But yeah, so I was kind of surprised. It's kind of a little esoteric for an American band, but hell.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I never knew where the name came from.
Yeah, I might be completely wrong, but that I was just kind of okay. No.
I just actually, okay, I had to look up real quick. I was like, End of a Year. I've never even heard of them. Mm-hmm. Wow, your cover for that is really something. The figure
cool.
at a desk. I just put it in the I put it in the Twitch channel. That's crazy cool.
Oh, good. Yeah, they were very open with what they requested, so it was another fun one just to see what happened.
If somebody commissioned another one, would you? I mean, would you say no? I mean,
No, not no. You mean just because it
another
was an album cover or
yeah,
something?
no.
No, no. I'm open to.
Okay, because there's a lot of musician scenes. There's a lot of musicians in the DCC group, and I'm sure somebody will be like, well, okay, let's start putting the funds together and get Erol to do that. So we're looking out for you, because we know when you're not designing magic cards, you're probably looking for work. So
Yeah. Maybe that will give you the final thing in your portfolio you need to feel comfortable in retrospect.
You never know. Yeah, could be.
Wow, that's something.
Oh, so that is a lot of just.
I think they made they made end of the year. I think they made a T-shirt out of the thing on the back. I don't know if it was for sale or not. They sent me one. So they kind of cropped it, so it was just that protoplasmic thing with the hand.
Did you see if we can find an image of that, Brendan? No.
I'm on it.
Now, do you ever have any desire to kind of go back and redo any of your kind of earlier work now that you have decades of experience on it? I mean, do you suffer from like George Lucas effect, or are you very much happy with the past is the past and that represents this time in my life? And
okay, just quickly, what's the George Lucas effect?
Well, like George Lucas is not done with Star Wars. Like he never quite finished it. Just like anytime technology or something changed, like he went back and he played around with the first three Star Wars movies because we didn't have the technology, or he wasn't able to do with what he wanted to do with that. So he did the special editions and he changed things and he tweaked things and stuff like that. Do you have any of that, or are you very much
Yeah, what's interesting is I don't have any interest in redoing stuff I've already done. However, I totally forgot this. I was digging through, boxes, and I found some illustrations I had actually done, redoing some of them from the Fantasy Art Enterprises book, the Necronomicon. And I remember, I did redo a few things, but that was, 30 years ago. I think shortly, maybe a couple of years after I left TSR.
Right.
I did have a desire to redo some of those and make them better, with the idea of, I guess, maybe publishing it again, but we never did. But thinking about it now, people have asked me because, so much of the artwork was, TSR threw away or what have you. So many of them are probably lost, as people were saying, but why don't we do it again? I don't even have, I think that's my own problem. I have a hard time even doing a real detailed rough of something that I'm going to make a final out of, because it kind of kills, it kind of kills a little of the spontaneity, or maybe it's me getting bored. I don't know. So the roughs I usually do are really rough. They're just like to get the idea of what it's going to be, and then
right.
Anyway, I don't want to redo anything.
I can understand that myself. From a writing perspective, I don't like to go back and look at what I've written in the past. Like once it is kind of done, is done, because I always know if I go back and if I look at it a lot, I'm going to hate it, because I'm hopeful. I hope that I have gotten better since that point in my life. So that that very much represents of where I was at that time. And now I just, I'm kind of always looking over the horizon, like what's next rather than what has been. So
that's interesting. I think it's a little easier for a writer to avoid going back and looking at something, because I can, as an artist, it's like click, boom, there it is.
Yeah. and it, and at conventions and stuff, people are always bringing things like, here, please sign this for me. This, this thing you did in 1981. So.
Yeah. Thankfully, a lot of them I really like, but every now it's like, oh shit.
Why that one? I question your taste, but Oh. Okay. Oh, they say there's one other question. I don't know. With that goes into stuff we're not going to really cover. No. But
Sorry. Oh, I just shut my nose down. I just nothing.
Okay. All right. So do you, aside from the Dying Earth stuff, do you have anything, anything else kind of in the pipe that you have, you're working on that you can talk about, or, or anything that you're kind of,
Let's see what's happening. I finished a couple of book covers recently, and I'm going to post them on my Facebook as soon as the authors have relevant live links. I think one of them's coming out end of this month, and another one end of September. And I'm going to do later this year. I'm going to do a cover for the next core book for DCC.
Ooh, okay.
I don't think that's a secret. Sorry, Joseph. I don't think it was a secret.
I didn't know. Did you first off here?
I guess it was a secret.
Well,
I don't think it was. He didn't say it was. Anyway, so there's
Ladies and
that.
gentlemen, you heard it here first.
yeah.
I'm going to do...
if Errol, if you're in trouble, we're all in trouble. We'll
I
go
could be in
down
trouble.
with you.
What's he gonna do?
And I'm going to do... I don't think this is a secret. Necrotic Gnome has a...
Oh, yeah.
going to have a new cover for their box set or something. I think I'm going to do that starting really soon, at least according to mine. I could be better at scheduling, but I do write things down so that I don't make any terrible blunders. And that's next, and then DCC, and then I'm going to do something for Paul Stormberg's coming out with, I think, some more modules for GaryCon.
Okay.
And I'm going to do some artwork for that after that.
All right.
But the main thing is concurrent with all those is I'm writing that adventure for the Dying Earth and doing some illustrations. And I haven't done that. I've run a lot of games, but I haven't made any like formal module, written it up so that someone else could run it in quite a while. So that's going to be an interesting challenge.
No,
awesome.
Did you do any of the writing back in like the Booty and the Beast and the Necronomicon stuff? That's why.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why I thought that was the case, but you didn't do anything on the writing scene for like TSR or anything. That was right.
No, that was not for TSR.
But I mean, we've been going to, I've seen you enough in North Texas. I know that you're always running games there, and I know they're always well received and everything. So
I did write up Island Town 1 and 2 to the point where they published digest versions of them.
Okay.
So that was 9 and 10 years ago.
Yeah,
a little while.
I remember when you were running those, so it was probably a little bit. Yeah. All right. So it is if anybody in the chat has any final questions for Errol, we're getting up against the 9 o'clock hour, so we have to wrap things up soon. So if you've got something you've been sitting on, please put it out. But if you assuming 2022 is we're open for business in this country again. Any plans on doing GaryCon 2022, or is that kind of everything still up in the air right now? Because I think the last time I saw you was probably GaryCon 2019. If it was either.
I was there. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I'd love to go back there again.
Yeah.
See how. Yeah, I mean, kind of the way things are going now. Hopefully, it'll happen, but it kind of looks like. I would say it's not for sure.
Yeah.
Thing. I would love it to be.
No.
I mean, I'm not speaking for them. I'm speaking for me going there. I'm kind of a chicken.
So, yeah, I mean, it would be great to see you again. I mean, this is the secret behind the show is that Brendan and I started this last summer, during COVID. This is our excuse to see people we wouldn't otherwise get a chance to see. So
it's important. It's important. I really miss. I haven't had a live D&D game in my place. I used to host all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I really miss it.
Oh yeah, sure, gosh.
Back in the world that was, were you running a SETI game for a group of friends, or were you playing in a group? Because I mean,
we had. I was running one which was Island Town.
Okay.
Which was that, and then a friend of mine, Owen, was running a game for actually. I think we didn't play a lot, but it was we kept it up. And his campaign was 10 years long when we stopped playing his. I think in 2014. So yeah, we had some regular games going.
Okay. Yeah, I think everybody kind of misses the camaraderie and getting just any sort of sense of normalcy. So, Brendan, do we have any last questions before, or we?
I got one last. There's one last one, but it's so big that we'll never get to it in the time allotted here. Erol, Raven Shadows would like to know, where do you come up with the ideas for your art? I just feel like here in the last. So you got about 30 seconds. If you can just that down.
That is again the unconscious versus the conscious, along with whatever guidance there is. In terms of what the content is supposed to be. I mean, I like to just take a little while right at the beginning of a project and not rush it. Sit down a few times and make a few little rough sketches based on what bubbles up, and not put too much pressure on right at the beginning, and not necessarily go with the first thing. Yeah. But maybe after a second and third thing proves unworthy, then back to the first thing.
I have to say is, I'm familiar with the creative process from the word monkey point of view, but it sounds very familiar to the to the visual arts as well. So. All right. Well, it's just about 9 o'clock, so this is usually where we wrap things up. So as our loyal viewers know, we have a sponsor every week. So Brendan, would you like to tell us who our sponsor is this week?
I can't wait. This week, our sponsor is the NEA Gamefest, which is going to be October 15th to 17th, 2021. The NEA Gamefest is a tabletop gaming convention that benefits the Children's Shelter, which, in over its 10 years of operation, has served as a temporary home for nearly 1,300 children who have been displaced. The event is hosted by the NEA Gamers Guild, a group of 185 plus hobbyists who enjoy promoting social unplugged gaming. Scheduled for October the 15th to 17th, the event is going to draw gamers from across the region and on to beyond from all over. It's going to be the Hilton Garden Inn in Jonesboro, Arkansas. In the past, NEA Gamefest has raised over $13,000 for the shelter, and Goodman Games has been a sponsor of the NEA Gamefest for several years, and we are going to sponsor them again this year. So I'm going to put the website into the chat room, and I hope everyone will. If you get a chance, check it out. I mean, obviously, if you're in the area, maybe mask up and go and check out the scene at the NEA Gamefest. But find some way to support. It's a really good cause, and we're the principals are all fantastic folks. We love working with.
Play some games for the kids. So Erol, thank you very much for agreeing to come on and hang out with us for an hour down here in the basement in our CRT area.
You're welcome. This was great. You guys did a great job.
We appreciate it.
Welcome anytime, sir.
Reschedule. For everybody watching at home, this next week will be the season finale of Keep Crawlin with Mike and Brendan. We've been 12 episodes this year, but things are getting busy again, so we have to step aside. So we're going to do what we did last year. We're going to ask us anything. And so if you have any questions that you've been dying to ask us, Brendan or I, or the Gestalt entity that is Mike and Brendan, please, by all means, send them to
Brendan at goodman-games.com, or these days, send them to my Facebook or Twitter or whatever. Friend me on here. You can probably be a friend on Twitch. I don't know. However messages come, send them to me. We would love to have your questions. We'll answer everything, plus questions for the audience next time. And tune in for our season finale.
Okay. And will the stream be available for later non-live viewing? Yes, it will be. It will be on the Twitch channel for the next 7 to 9 days, and then it will be on the Goodman Games YouTube channel. So yes, so we will be there.
Yep.
And you can catch us there. So everybody, keep crawling. Then we'll see you in a week. All right. Bye.
Thank you guys. Bye.
geeks come out at night. The geeks come out at night. The geeks come out at night. The geeks come out. The geeks come out at night.